season begins with a grim scene where the players, having acknowledged their defeat, await their fate. Soldiers arrive and begin eliminating them one by one. Among the chaos, one soldier quietly marks a specific box, signaling that it should be taken to the operating room. This simple but suspicious act hints at something more, and soon it's revealed that Kang No-ul, the same girl who was once firmly against transporting players to the operating room, has now shockingly joined those engaging in this dirty work. She approaches another soldier, requesting to be escorted to the operating room. Without hesitation, the two set off together, heading down a path towards the operation room. The scene cuts to the players' room, where tension hangs in the air. A box is carried in, and inside it lies Seong Gi-hun, completely unconscious. The sight of his lifeless form sends a wave of unease across the room. Meanwhile, far from the game, aboard a boat, Jung-jae and his group are caught up in a growing mystery. They're investigating the sudden and unexplained disappearance of one of their crew members, the very same individual who was earlier thrown off the boat by Captain Park. As they discuss the matter, the decision is made to search for the missing man. However, Captain Park coldly dismisses the idea, telling them it would be pointless since no one could have survived a night in those harsh conditions. Back inside the facility, Gi-hun finally stirs. He opens his eyes slowly, confused and disoriented. Moments later, soldiers enter the room and announce the added prize winnings to the group. Gi-hun, still mentally reeling, suddenly breaks down and starts screaming in anguish, demanding to know why he was left alive while others were not. His cries grow louder and more desperate until the soldiers, following protocol, pin him to the ground to control him. Watching all of this silently from a remote room is the frontman, whose emotionless gaze doesn't flinch. He receives a call from Captain Ko, who updates him on the current situation and about how the crew is close to finding out the location of the island. Without hesitation, the frontman gives a chilling order. If things go south, take out everyone. Soon, voting begins again. Gi-hun remains silent this time, refusing to participate. His lack of response is treated as an abstention, and with that, the voting ends. The result? The blue team wins once again with a majority, and the games are set to continue. Player 100 then confronts Gi-hun. He accuses him of collaborating with the frontman, claiming that Gi-hun was spared while others were killed, and suggests that his so-called rebellion was nothing more than an elaborate performance, completely staged. Tension rises. Just then, the shaman enters and mocks Gi-hun, piling onto the accusations and deepening his shame. In the background, the frontman instructs a soldier to begin repairing the arena, noting that the VIPs will be arriving soon and the place must be presentable. Meanwhile, Kang No-ul is on her way to the operating room. During the walk, the two of them talk, and when the other soldier asks where she learned to shoot, she tells him that she was in military in North Korea. When she finally arrives at the operating room, she finds it buzzing with activity. The surgeon and several soldiers are preparing for an operation. At first, she cooperates with them, but in a sudden, brutal turn of events, No-ul turns on them. A gunfight erupts. One by one, she eliminates every soldier in the room, sparing only the surgeon. She commands him to save the man on the table. The surgeon complies, but once his task is complete, he too is taken out. Elsewhere, the remaining players attempt to comfort Gi-hun, who remains silent and focused solely on Dae-ho, his expression unreadable. Meanwhile, it's now day 4 of the outside search, and Jun-ho is still trying to track down the island's location. Woo-seok, a fellow crew member, approaches him with a theory. He believes Captain Park was behind the drone operator's disappearance and says he saw him holding a screwdriver the night before. Jun-ho, however, waves off the suspicion as he trusts the captain and doesn't pursue it further. The next day dawns. Dae-ho wakes up and finds Gi-hun silently watching him. Unnerved, he chooses to ignore it. Soon, the 4th game is announced. The players are rounded up and taken to a staging area, but before reaching the arena, they're shown a grim sight: the remains of those involved in the earlier gunfight. The message is loud and clear. There are consequences for breaking the rules. Each player is asked to take out a ball from a gumball machine containing red and blue balls to determine their team. In this way, they are randomly split into 2 groups: red and blue. The rules of the game are then revealed. It's hide and seek, but with deadly stakes. The blue team's goal is to either find the exit and escape, or to stay hidden from the red team for the entire 30-minute game. They're given several keys to open doors throughout the arena, which would help them escape. The red team, on the other hand, must eliminate at least one blue team member each within the time limit, or they will be eliminated themselves. Unsurprisingly, the red team complains. They argue that they've been given no means to eliminate their targets. To balance things out, they're handed a weapon. Then comes a twist. Players are allowed to switch sides, but only if someone on the opposite team agrees to switch with them. Jun-ho and his search team prepare for another trip to find the island, but Woo-seok decides to stay back, determined to gather evidence against Captain Park. Back inside the arena, players are offered a brief window of time to change teams. Min-soo faces bullying once again from Nam-gyu. Myung-gi tries to convince Jun-hee to switch sides, knowing she doesn't have it in her to kill. Eventually, she agrees and they swap teams. The mother-son pair, Young-sik and his mom, also decide to switch sides. Dae-ho wants to switch sides as he knows Gi-hun will go after him. Player 100 and Dae-ho attempt to switch too, but are unsuccessful. Moments later, the blue team is called into the arena. They walk into what looks like a giant maze under a night sky filled with stars. They are told they have 2 minutes to run and hide. Quickly, the players scatter and form groups. Jun-hee, Hyunju, and Gi-hun team up. The shaman, as always, leads her group, claiming divine voices will guide them. As the red team prepares, Myung-gi and Nam-gyu decide to stick together. The countdown ends and the hunt begins. Meanwhile, Young-suk, the man in the operating room, regains consciousness and No-il tells him she saved him. Back in the arena, the red team is now roaming the maze searching. The blue team members are hiding, using every ounce of strategy and luck to avoid being caught. The shaman claims to hear voices telling her the correct path. Jun-hee's group keeps opening doors searching for the exit, and they find out that there are 3 types of keys: square, circle, and triangle, each corresponding to specific doors, and the 3 of them have 3 different keys, and they end up giving the keys to Hyunju to move fastly. Elsewhere, Dae-ho rushes through the maze, opening a door that leads to a dead end. Gi-hun catches up to him. He almost takes Dae-ho out, but at the last second holds back, and Dae-ho manages to escape. Myung-gi and Nam-gyu eventually find a blue team member. A fight breaks out over who gets the kill since both need it to survive. They compromise, take him out together, splitting the credit as it counts as a half kill. Then they find another one and complete their task. The rest of the players continue hiding. Min-soo finds Nam-gyu's cross, which contains pills, and hides it. Jun-hee and her group is trying to find the exit, but just then Jun-hee trips and falls. A red team player finds her, but Hyunju shows up just in time and defeats him. The group hides in a room, and to their shock, Jun-hee's water breaks. With Gi-hun's help, she gives birth to a baby girl. Meanwhile, Hyunju stands guard. Player 100, as always, is looking out for himself. He's walking with someone, but betrays them the moment a red team member appears to save himself. The shaman opens a door, but closes it quickly and runs away. Just then, red team members enter through the door, taking out the shaman's group. She barely escapes, but ends up running into Gi-hun. To save herself, she reveals Dae-ho's location and sends him away. Gi-hun tracks him down, ready to take him out. Dae-ho pleads for his life, but a brutal fight breaks out. In the end, Gi-hun finishes him. The shaman later stumbles across the exit, but learns that it requires all 3 key types. She sets off to find the rest. Meanwhile, player 100 is trying to find the exit, but just then, he hits a dead end and hears Nam-gyu singing. Thinking quickly, he pretends to be lifeless by laying with another player and manages to save himself. Just then, the shaman appears trying to find the other keys, and together they set off to find the exit. But when they open the door, he betrays her and locks her out. Min-soo shows up and clearly isn't in his right mind, and when the shaman tries to escape, he finishes her and breaks down. Meanwhile, another red team member finds Jun-hee's group and tries to attack. Hyunju defeats him yet again. He ends up finding the exit and goes back to bring the others. But Myung-gi appears and takes out Gi-hun. Seeing Jun-hee, he hesitates and he walks away, taking Nam-gyu with him, determined to let Jun-hee and the baby live. As the timer ticks down, Gi-hun's son, who hasn't killed anyone yet, arrives and begs her to let him take out Jun-hee so he can survive. He is about to do so, but in a heartbreaking twist, Gi-hun takes out her own son to save Jun-hee and the child. They share one final tearful hug. Just then, the time runs out. Gi-hun, devastated, nearly gives up on life. But the soldiers stop him. To see what happens next, subscribe, because part 2 drops tomorrow.